It's the Demo Guys podcast back for our seventh edition, our seventh episode, and it's the summer beverage beatdown, joined by Jason Smith, the CEO of Velocity Goats. I'm Sam Kaplan, the founding CEO of Brand Ambassador Consultants. Excited for you guys to watch us live today or also on demand on YouTube, but really fun show today. We're going to do basically a mock draft of the most essential summer beverages of 2025. Jason's going to make his picks. I'm going to make my picks. We'll put them out on LinkedIn, a LinkedIn poll after the show with the two rosters, and you'll get a chance to vote who won the summer beverage beatdown. But I'm feeling pretty good about my research, so we'll get to our picks there in a little bit. But Jason, how has your week been going?
It's been great, Sam. I got to be honest. I was planning on going to a trade show in Salt Lake City, and thanks to the weather in Philadelphia, none of that happened travel-wise, which was kind of a blessing in some ways. It's been a pretty busy week trying to get Velocity Goats going. Had a lot of great conversations with brands, so excited to see what happens. Still have a lot of work to do. I have a big team in place. I want to make sure they have enough work to sustain themselves But I really appreciate the brands that have reached out and the conversations I've had, and I'm excited to see what I can do to really help some brands scale. How about you, Sam? How's your week been?
Pretty good. Had a really good week of potential client calls, and I had a very interesting call with a potential client. She has a plant-based protein bar. She's deliberately starting out with distribution in smaller stores to try to make sure she refines everything before she starts approaching the bigger retailers for larger authorizations, which I think is a great strategy. Patience is definitely an attribute in our industry. But we were talking about what expectations would be like if my team and I started working with her, and the units sold per demo. What would success look like to her? And because she's in some of these smaller independent stores, the number was surprisingly low, which is reasonable expectations. But because it was a bar, said, why are we thinking about pushing these bars individually? What about selling it by the case instead of by the bar? Because with protein bars, yeah, you're going to have some consumers that buy one or two at a time. But for those that are really dedicated to fitness and they have busy schedules and they can't necessarily always ingest bioavailable protein, and they're looking for powders or bars or shakes, I have found when I've done demos for those types of products that people that are in a certain demographic in terms of finances, they don't buy one or two. They want to buy by the case. And sometimes if there's two varieties they like, they buy multiple cases at a time because they're daily consumers of the product. So I was talking to her and shared some ideas about getting set up to have the case not broken down right away by the merchandising team in store, and trying to get that barcode coded into the system so that the case can remain unopened and just scan through the register. And then also suggested, hey, let's do coupons, not for 50 cents off a bar, but let's do coupons where it's $4 off the case. And let's just focus on selling cases so that we could really move a lot of product. And I know, Jason, you're a big believer in financially sustainable demos. There's a lot of people out there, they think very small from my perspective. Talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you've done, because the Ithaca demos, the numbers were crazy. How do you go from taking a program that's maybe happy with, hey, we'll sell 18 to 24 units during the course of 3 or 4 hours, to demos that sell 70, 80, 100 plus units?
That's a great question, Sam. And obviously one that perplexed me when I first started doing demos was that one, right? It's a lot easier to sell 3 or 4 units or 12 units to one person than it is to sell 3 or 4 units to 3 to 4 people or 12 people, right? It's a lot more interaction. It's a lot more time consuming to try to sell individual units. Now, there are some brands that are more premium items. So like in the supplement industry and things like that, obviously you can't really do combined, or you can, but it's a lot harder to get people to walk out with multiple units and things like that. Hummus was a very interesting challenge for me, because I was used to like with Clean Cause, it was great. It's a drink, and
Right.
beverages people usually consume more than one in a day, or at least more than one in a week. So, logically speaking, getting people to buy multiples was easier, but it was kind of the same methodology. Like I just said, all right, first I'll back up because when I started with Perfect Bar, I learned that really quick. Whereas like having a case price in the system was essential. And this is back when Whole Foods had Devo and Irma, and getting that set up in like a regional level wasn't that difficult. And I think honestly, I might be the first person who sold nutrition bars by the box, because at this time, Whole Foods did not have box prices and on shelf stable bars, and we definitely didn't have a box price for the Perfect Bar. So it was an 8 count box. Great deal. We got a coupon just for the buy, just like you mentioned, like
Yep.
$5 off a box. And we just started. I'd put the boxes on the table, never even open them. And I would just sell it as, hey, this is your meal replacement for the week. And man, it just started cranking. And I was like, this is the way we're going to scale this business. And we took that model to Kroger, and we did 4,000 to 5,000 units in 4 days in King Super stores with super demos. Like, it was insane, the volume. Not selling individuals, selling by the box, selling by the case. And so that's the way to do it. With the hummus, it's a little bit more challenging. Why? Because you have
Yeah.
to.
Because I had never heard of hummus selling like that until we started talking about the numbers you guys were generating.
Well, that's it, and I quickly learned, like, I'm not going to be able to sell to the level that I expect myself to, selling ones and twosies with $1 off coupon, right? So I pulled all the $1 off, $2 off incentive coupons and said, all right, we're going to do one coupon, and it's either going to be buy two get one free or buy three get one free, and that's the way we're going to go. And we had enough flavors to kind of justify to people just being with sales and saying, hey, especially around the holidays and things like that, like, hey, try all the flavors. If you buy three here, you're going to get one free, so you can mix and match. And it's tough with hummus because it's a 3 month shelf life, and people are like, oh, I'm not going to eat that much hummus. And then you start like talking like, hey, you have parties coming up, you have all this stuff, and then they start like doing the math. They're like, yeah, it is 3 months. You're right. Like, there's the 4th of July coming up, all this stuff. So eventually they're just like making in their head, oh, that is a lot simpler math. And that's really the key. Like, we had our velocities picked up considerably once we had those coupons in place. And like I said, those dollar offs, all that, way too much to track, way too much money. It's just not worth it. And a dollar off incentive isn't really enough to get somebody to buy multiples. So you're just really incentivizing them to buy one unit. And you want to send a customer away with enough product to where they're going to create a habit, right?
Yep.
Share it with
Yep.
their family or share it with their friends or do something outside of just consuming it themselves. So that's really the key to demos.
And two things I want to piggyback off on that you mentioned, and you said at Perfect Bar you had the cases on the table,
Yeah.
and it may sound obvious, but at Super Coffee we learned the easiest way to sell the case is to show the case, have it on the table. You don't even necessarily need to always talk about the case up front. The customer sees that and then questions, oh well, do I buy this individually or do I buy it by the case? And that opens the door right away. They're introducing that. And then you touched on it as well. Like, sometimes you got to inspire customers. You got to sell them the vision, and you got to present use cases to them to get the wheels turning in their mind. And suddenly that can go from yeah, I'm just going to get one. But if you inspire them, that's how you get them up to 3 or 4. You got to let them know the use cases and how it can fit into their everyday life. And I interviewed a brand ambassador candidate in New York City earlier this week, and she works. She's a brand ambassador, works directly for GT's Kombucha, one of the legacy better for you brands in our industry. And she says the way they do it in New York is they send her those cardboard fold out for the 4-pack holders, and it's like you talked about with Perfect Bar. The only coupon they use is buy 3 get 1 free. There's no coupon for 50 cents off or buy 2 get $1 off. It's you buy, the only deal you can get that day if it's not on promo through Whole Foods is buy 3 get 1 free. And I think that giving her those fold outs, those cardboard fold outs, the 4-packs, it may seem like basic, but it adds some production value to closing the sale. Like, it's like, oh well, here's this case. I want to get that case. They see the case. But the only way you need to buy four, you need to buy three and get the fourth one free to get that special case. I've talked to a couple of my current clients like, hey, I could sell them 12 units, and I do try to sell for beverages. I do try to sell 12 units. But if you can send me a empty cardboard case that I can fill up, that adds to the experience and gets them more excited and creates something that they covet more. They oh, I want to get that case. I want it nice and neat and organized and very easy to bring up. It's a lot easier to sell 12 cans or 12 bottles that way than to have try to put individual cans and bottles and leave it at the bottom of their cart. So that's kind of my take on that. But that some interesting stuff there. Another interesting thing that we have in our purview here, Jason. So this is a question that was submitted to us through LinkedIn. It's from Annette Davidson, a friend of mine. She is another agency owner. Her firm is called Icon Food Marketing. And Annette had a really good question, and I also followed up with her after we got the question. I want to make sure we made sure we had full context. And this has to do with some of the fallout, the continued fallout from the UNFI cyber attack and the inability to get deliveries in. Things are kind of getting back to normal, but not completely there yet for every single brand out there. But Annette had a good question. She said she's looking forward to the episode. She wanted us to talk about service providers, especially the demo and merchandising companies, handling the fallout from the UNFI outage. She shared the screenshot from the notification that she received. It's right there. It might be a little difficult to see, but to give further context, before we kind of delve into this topic, Annette, is a fellow agency owner, and she's a very forward-thinking owner when it comes to her talent. She values her talent and her brand ambassadors. And if she books a brand ambassador and the demo gets canceled for any reason, and they committed to working for her, Annette feels obligated that she wants to compensate them for any and all cancellations, which is smart. It's very smart. It's this is a talent-driven business. She wants to retain that talent. But in talking to Annette, what's happening is a lot of her brand partners signed contracts with her, and Whole Foods canceled the demos. And she still had to come out of pocket. And, some of the cancellations, I think, were like inside of a week, but most of them were inside of 1 to 2 days. These were very late cancellations. The brand ambassadors, in almost all cases, did not have an opportunity to rebook themselves. So rather than risk losing these brand ambassadors to other brands or agencies or driving them out of the industry, she pays them a cancellation rate. And by contract with her brands, she believes that they should be compensating her as well, since she had nothing to do with the cancellation. It was not her fault. But some of the brands are not happy about that. So, Jason, I'm not sure if you wanted me to take that right off the top or if you had some thoughts.
So, here's my 2 cents, because I left Ithaca right around this time that this was starting to really happen and impact, demos. So I can't speak to your knowledge on it, but I can speak to it somewhat, because my last day with Ithaca was the 22nd of June, and a lot of our demos were canceled by Interactions last minute. I'm going to be honest here. I had my team go ahead and go sample, and fortunately, we had product in stores that could justify it. So it was, and because my team had such strong relationships in the stores, there was no question whether they were there or not. They didn't care, and Interactions wasn't communicating to the stores. The stores just thought it was business as usual. So I didn't have any issues. But of course, that was in late June. Right. I fast forward to
my jaw's dropping. I wish I had talked to you. I wish you had told me this a couple months ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the deal. Like I'll use Interactions as much as I have to, but at the end of the day, like I'm mostly focused on making sure the velocities and the turns are there. So if the product's there and the store's open to us selling, that's all that matters to me. And the store's going to make revenue regardless, and that's the whole point of the demo. So that's my 2 cents. But take that with a grain of salt. I don't want to upset Interactions or the whole system, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do to make sense. Make the sales work. So,
and Annette, my answer, is going to be protracted here. It's probably going to be long-winded, but there in many contracts there is a clause written in called force majeure, which is an act of God clause, and most people didn't know what that clause was, even though it was written a standard written language into most contracts. We didn't know what that really meant and what it had anything to do with until COVID. Suddenly, a lot of companies that had these contracts with service providers and third-party providers they couldn't pay their bills, and they had to invoke the force majeure clause to get out of that. I don't know, and in some states, I believe, even if it's not written into the contract, it's a clause that can be exercised anyway. But in that, speaking from agency owner to agency owner, there's the micro and the macro that has to be considered. With this outage, everyone suffered. Whole Foods suffered, brands suffered, third party providers suffered, the brand ambassadors suffered. And from the micro perspective, you're paying out of pocket, you're paying the brand ambassadors, and there is a contract there. But in those types of situations, I want to sympathize and empathize with the client as much as possible. And I want to retain them. I want to build a long-term relationship. And when something like that happens, I believe we're partners in success, but also partners in wouldn't say failure in this case, but partners in suffering. And we do have, in my contracts for brand ambassador consultants, any cancellation that's not our fault inside of 24 hours, I have to pay the brand ambassador, and I can't come out of pocket. I have to get my costs back. But if it's outside of 24 hours and the cancellation is not our fault, it's a reschedule clause. Like the contracted amount is what it is. But if things happen, we don't want to punish our brand partners. We just want the opportunity to get that business back down the road within the next several months once the issues are fixed. And usually it's related to distribution issues or a product recall. So it's like, hey, you're hurting, we're hurting. Let's work together and figure out a solution together. So I tried to do everything I can to not charge them their full amount for the contracted demos, even if the cancellation was not our fault. I want to work with them, retain their business. So I think it's sitting down with your partners and trying to let them know what the pain points and struggles you're going through, listening to what their pain points and struggles are, and seeing if you can find a compromise solution rather than holding them to the letter of the law to that contract and trying to invoice for the full amount that was contracted. And maybe a lawyer will advise them to pay it and you'll get that full amount. But from the macro perspective, right? The micro perspectives is you've got bills to pay, you got brand ambassadors to pay. That money was contracted, you need it coming in. But from the macro perspective, if you hold them to that contract and they pay out begrudgingly, is that going to be the last contract they sign with you? So for me, when I value the partner and things happen, I want to talk to them, communicate with them, and figure out a compromise solution that will work for everybody.
So, I think that's very honorable, and I respect that a lot. And I'll probably take that from you and do the same with mine, because I obviously haven't even gotten to that point yet. So, but it's really solid information and knowledge there, Sam. Thanks for sharing that. And not to bounce back to the subject, but I wanted to point one thing out about coupons. If you're going to do one of the buy three, get one free coupons, there's one thing I just don't want to leave out because it's very key. With your clearinghouse, when you're creating the coupon, make sure there's a box on the back to write the value of the scan of the item. Why does that matter? Because there's going to be a top value redeemed on that coupon, right? And it's going to be above your retail price. And if you don't write the price of the redemption on that coupon, you're going to get charged that price.
Yep.
But say say the coupon was redeemed, you're running a TPR on Prime, you're already paying and trading down all that spend. You need to write that price that was redeemed at on that coupon before it goes up to get scanned at the register. Don't leave it up to the person at the register. A lot of times it doesn't get written in there, and then you're going to, the clearinghouse is going to get the coupon. They're just going to charge you the full amount, and it could have been $3 or $4 less. So that's a very, very important fact. I just want to call that out before we moved on. So,
and before we do move on, another thing I want to add in there, it's important to let your brand ambassadors know that under no circumstance should they leave a large amount of coupons behind, even if the store manager is strongly encouraging that and pressuring them to leave the coupons. Do not do that. And the reason being, because Jason kind of touched on it, those coupons get sent back to a clearinghouse and redeemed. They can be treated as cash. And there have been stories, and I can confirm this because it happened to me once, where a manager bullied one of our brand ambassadors when I was at Super Coffee, got a bunch of coupons and filled them out and figured out a way to finagle the system so that the cash rebate wound up in their own pocket. So it was a smaller independent. It wasn't a large chain store, but it was a smaller independent. And they, so that those coupons are as good as cash, and they can be redeemed. And, for bigger retailers, it's known where that rebate is going to go. But for smaller retailers, someone in a management position can finagle it so that the money is routed directly to them. So just always keep that in mind. Let your brand ambassadors know they do not leave maybe they can leave one or two behind, but you don't leave a stack of coupons. Never do that. If someone's asking for that stack to be left, that's very shady in my opinion. So, but we're going to transition now to our main event. It's the summer beverage beatdown that we've been promoting here for the last couple of weeks. Happy to be bringing this to you on a Friday at noon Eastern time. Jason, we're going to get this draft started, and I'm going to let you do the honors. You've got the number one overall pick in the summer beverage beatdown.
The pressure's on. So I'm a big give back guy, and I'm very loyal to brands. So I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by this one, but it's Clean Cause.
All right.
I love Clean Cause. I love the taste. I love that it's a lower sugar option. I love that they have a still line now, which is the one that's in my hand, which is phenomenal, by the way. But the thing I love the most is 50% of their net proceeds go to addiction recovery, and it's something that's massive. That's a massive give back. And it's true to their word. And there's a lot of addicts out there that have gotten a lot of help from Clean Cause due to that program. And it's yerba mate. And I just want to call it out. All these energy drinks on the market, really, really taxing on your adrenals and really not nutritive. Like there's no real benefit to drinking it other than you're just going to have a ton of caffeine and maybe some added B vitamins and stuff. And you're probably going to have a massive crash later. The cool thing about yerba mate, it is the highest polyphenol content of any tea. So it's shade grown, it's organic. That's the way they get it. It's the highest quality. Do the research. I mean, there's so many avenues I can go down for the benefits of yerba mate. I don't want to touch on it, but it's just drink something that's good for you and creates energy and doesn't cause a massive crash in the later day and doesn't tax your adrenal glands so much. If you're someone who gets to nighttime and you're finding yourself all of a sudden your energy is starting to pop and max out, your adrenals are fatigued. That's a really good sign of adrenal fatigue. And you're probably consuming way too much caffeine during the day and your adrenals are just really taxed. Highly recommend yerba mate. All right, I'm done. I'm off my stage.
Good pick. So my first, I have a divider here because I don't know what shows up on camera and what doesn't, and I don't want to ruin the suspense. But my number one pick here, it's not my true number one pick. It's definitely top five, but I felt like to get this beverage on my roster, I was going to have to go take it very early and sneak it from Jason. There were some where I'm pretty sure Jason's not going to be interested in them, but I knew this one would be on his list, and that is the Liquid Death in the can. And, the reason why this is a great summer beverage, microplastics are a huge problem, but microplastics, that problem becomes compounded in the summer. You do not want to be drinking from plastic bottles in the summer that you leave in your car, or maybe you have a couple cases sitting out in your hot garage, or if you're traveling down to the beach and you put it in the back of your car, and maybe you can't check into the beach house or the hotel right away, so you leave that case of water, that Kirkland water, that giant case that you think is going to get you through the week. You leave it in the back of your car in the hot sun, 90 degree heat, and those microplastics just burning off. So that's why I love drinking water out of the can. Liquid Death is one of the few readily available aluminum options. So this is the perfect summer beverage in terms of water. You need the water in the can more so in the summer than any other time of the year. So that is my number one overall pick, Liquid Death.
Good call out. And just not to make people super paranoid about microplastics, but another concept on that too. These trucks that are doing the deliveries, whether it's Unifi or whoever, are sitting out in the heat and they are not refrigerated. And those trucks get pretty hot in the back. If anyone's ever had to go in there and throw a load out as a receiver, those things come in hot. So definitely a great call out, Sam. I love that one. And to go on to cans, this is my other hydration daily. I love coconut water. I don't know how well you can see this. This is their old branding. This is CoAqua.
Okay.
CoAqua coconut water, smaller brand, a disruptor, Taste is phenomenal. I've never really tasted any kind of coconut water where I didn't feel like there was a little bit of like a foot taste in the aftermath. And this one's got a really good flavor. And, some of their proceeds go to Bikes for Kids, so which is really cool too. I love to give back on that. Love supporting that kind of thing. So great job, Coaqua.
And then before I get to my next pick, my second round pick, we got a comment from Brian Fox, and he found our conversation there super interesting on the Clearinghouse and coupons. Brian is the owner of Trusted Herds, a brand ambassador talent portal that I talk about quite often during the show. But I wanted to highlight the comment because, if you're watching us on LinkedIn Live, when you submit your comments, we have the capability to put them on live. So if you're watching us live, you have a comment, question, feel free to drop it in the comment box in the live stream thread that we have going on right now. But pick number 2 this might be my number 1 beverage of all time, and that is Zevia Ginger Ale. Zevia, not a client of mine, but in full disclosure, I am part owner of Zevia. Well, I'm a shareholder. I bought stock over the internet through Robinhood. So I do have some shares of Zevia. That's how much I believe in this brand. I grew up a big ginger ale guy. I just love ginger ale. I'm addicted to it. I didn't drink it for years because of the sugar content and didn't want to drink diet ginger ale. But someone turned me on to Zevia ginger ale, and I drink at least once a day. I'm constantly buying cases at Kimmerton Whole Foods in Collegeville. So, cannot tell you how much, I can't express it enough. I love Zevia ginger ale. Just the best beverage out there.
Good choice. Good choice. I'm going to zag here. I'm going to get into a different side. I do have another hydration brand that I'm a big stay hydrated, right? I mean, it's so important. But and I've mentioned these guys on these calls before. This is
I knew that was going to make your team.
I know. I'm a big fan. I love it.
Good product, good beverage.
I mean, it's great tasting. I love that it's so different than all the other like digestive functionality drinks on the market. And I'm a big fan of Olipop too. It's not to take away from them, but I love the sleek can. I think it's genius. I love the pack out ability of the sleek can like this. Obviously, it's even good for C-store. I think there's so much opportunity if they did a sampling program with this, especially with the digestive benefits. It's a great product. It tastes great. I mean, I enjoy at least one a day. So great job, Wild Wonder. I'll always be drinking this regardless what happens, but I'm open for business.
And Jason's contact information is on the ticker there. So Wild Wonder, you want to get in touch with Jason, just look at the ticker there and reach out to him. All right. Pick number 3, round 3. This, full disclosure, this product is a client, and I put it in my top 5 as soon as Jason and I talked about the rules. I asked, are we going just ready to drink bottled and canned beverages only? He said, nope. It's all open. So, and this is perfect coffee for the summer. I drink it all year round. And they are a client, Wandering Bear Organic Cold Brew Coffee. It is bold. It is smooth. It is the best cold brew coffee out there that you can buy. It's at Costco right now in many regions. You can get a 3-pack for less than $20. I loaded up a couple months ago when it came back to the Northeast. I went to my Costco in King of Prussia and just bought a ton of stock. But that, I'm not a big hot coffee guy in general, Jason, but especially during the summer, I cannot drink hot beverages during the summer. So love me some cold brew, and you're not going to find a better cold brew from my perspective than Wandering Bear.
Yeah, so I gotta fight you on the hot liquids during the summer, man. It actually keeps you cool, but we'll leave that for another discussion. Yeah, no, it's I was raised by a Filipino woman. A lot of people don't know that. And so drank a lot of tea in my childhood, honestly, and it's a game changer. So highly recommend it. But number 4, and I actually found this brand at Fancy Foods, and I was stoked to find them in my local Kimmerton Whole Foods recently. So I want to bring them up. First of all, we talked about the plastic. It's a little bit better way of packaging anything with water. This is hydrogen infused, so it's very good for hydration. Plus, it has electrolytes in it, and it tastes awesome. And it's lemon lime, and I'm a big lemon ginger guy myself. This is awesome, like a great product. I'm actually have the founder's card. I'll be reaching out to her today because I think this would sample really well. Like, there's some really great flavors they make. It's an emerging brand. They have some give back on it too. They're part of the USATF. So I'm learning more about him, but it's definitely becoming a beverage I consume every day, and I highly recommend people trying the hydrogen infused waters. It's definitely a game changer to me. I feel so different. It's amazing. So,
Well, if we're going to go into hydrogen water, I'm going to go with a hydrogen water selection. But the number one pick on my board in terms of hydrogen water, and that is another brand that's new to Kimberton Whole Foods and making its way to other retailers, Ojai. So what's different about Ojai is it is sparkling and it is flavored, and the flavor is organic. And I've been demoing these. So yeah, full disclosure, Ojai is a client of mine. I've been demoing them at Kimberton Whole Foods. We've been selling a lot of them. I like it. I'm getting hooked on it. It's, I do love the hydrogen water, but I need some flavor in my water sometimes. And to my knowledge, right now, Ojai is the first and only flavored hydrogen water out there, and mad respect to them for being organic. So Jason's got his hydrogen water. I've got my hydrogen water. If you've tried them both, let us know who you think is the best in the comments there. But that's I bumped that pick up around after you busted out that guy. So
no, I love that. These do have multiple flavors, and but I love that. I have tried that product too, and I loved it. And the difference I would make is the sparkling aspect. Like that's more sparkling, which I love the fizz too. This one's more,
but it's not overly fizzy. It's very smooth.
It is very
call it smooth fizz. Yeah,
but enough to give you a little bit of bubble, which I really like. But yeah, I'm with you. It's a great product. I think they're going to do really well, especially with you, scaling them. So no, great pick. Last one I had to do an RTD protein, and I can't do dairy anymore. I don't know what happened. I think I consumed too many perfect bars in my life to where my body just can't digest it anymore.
What happened is we both got old, Jason, because I can't handle dairy the way I used to anymore. So
yeah, I don't know what happened, man. And I love Slate and everything, but I can't do it anymore. So Owen, own your own whatever. Only what you need. Sorry, it's. I love the 32 grams of protein this consists with 200 calories. I love that there's some fruits and vegetables aspect to it. Yeah, not every ingredient's perfect, but for a good protein that's vegan, especially after workout, taste-wise, I love it. A great product. So
we got another Brian Fox comment. Brian chiming in again. Feel like we've got to be getting to the sleeper picks where the Summer Beverage Fantasy League will be won. My final pick, though, it's no sleeper. I think it's a heavy hitter. The brand is a heavy hitter, at least, and that is Roar Organic. We need electrolytes in the summer as we get dehydrated and sweat quite often. Roar has a lot of great flavors. This is their newest one. This is their dragon fruit. It's organic. I'm a huge Roar fan in general, but when they came out with this one, this became my number one favorite flavor. So I don't know if we call it a sleeper pick because I think it's a blue chip prospect, but I think it's a good addition to my team there.
It's so funny, Sam. I almost picked Roar. So yep. I was right in between that and the hydrogen one. I was like, yeah, I'll go with the hydrogen. So great.
And I think I think that's the last pick, right?
That's it.
We're done. All right. I was so busy focusing on my picks. I'm not keeping track of that. We don't have a draft board, so or a draft tracker. But anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for the 7th episode of the Demo Guys podcast. We appreciate everyone tuning in for this summer beverage beatdown. I'll get that poll up. I'll have Jason's roster and my roster. And if you're on LinkedIn, you can check out that poll and vote for who you think put together the better summer beverage beatdown roster. But for Jason Smith, I am Sam Kaplan. We will see you on the next episode of the Demo Guys podcast.
Thanks, everyone.